A plea tonight for a national dialogue on the consumption of alcohol. It's coming from Chairman of the National Commission for the Chronic Non-Communicable Diseases, Professor Sir Trevor Hassell. Professor Hassell says research indicates there are high levels of alcohol abuse among Barbadians. He was presenting the feature address at the opening ceremony of a Healthy Lifestyle Expo hosted by the National Union of Public Workers Insurance Agent, Inc., ICBL and Tenet, Florida at the NUPW headquarters this morning. Professor Hassell says this abuse is also linked to increasing incidence of non-communicable diseases.
For even as we seek to maximize foreign exchange earnings from this critically important source, we need to seek ways of remedying a situation in which abuse of alcohol in Barbados and the wider Caribbean is a major contributor to road traffic accidents, violent deaths, thus making deaths from these causes one of the top 5 leading causes of death in the region.
Meanwhile, Health Minister John Boyce says legislation will soon be coming to ensure packaged cigarettes are labelled. The minister says legislation which banned smoking in public places is being observed, and he believes that additional laws will go a long way in reducing incidence of non-communicable diseases in the country.
Very soon, legislation will be in place also to deal with the question of labeling of cigarette packages in Barbados. This labeling is supposed, and those of us who are aware, and most of us must be, in most international jurisdictions, the labeling now describes the effects that we can contemplate if we continue to smoke. Thank God I put that habit away.
Former BLP stalwart and Cabinet Minister Lionel Seymour Craig was laid to rest this morning. The official funeral service for the life of the late MP was held at the St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Family, close friends and political affiliates gathered at St. Patrick's Cathedral, Gemmitt's Lane to celebrate the Barbados Labour Party MP's 85 years of life and service. Mr. Craig was a former Minister of Housing and leader of government business in the lower house of Parliament. In a tribute to the man who served 20 years in the House of Assembly, opposition leader Mia Motley said his tenure as housing minister was a prolific period. She says Mr. Craig, working with the National Housing Corporation, greatly improved the landscape of Barbados.
They piloted the extensions at Haynesville, the extensions at Bagatelle, West Terrace, Oxnard, Ferniehurst, Rosemont.
The sermon was delivered by Father Clement Paul. He said some memories of the former politician will always remain with him.
I was present as a young boy at a certain political meeting when this gentleman got up on the platform and he said, "Mr. Prime Minister, tomorrow, if," he said, "wait, I must be drunk. If, not if, Mr. Prime Minister, when we win tomorrow, I am going to be a minister." The crowd roared, and I've always remembered him for that.
Father Paul told the congregation Mr. Craig, affectionately called Lamy, also respected his position in the church.
I suspect that Lamy and I were friends because he recognized the priesthood in me. He recognized that I had something to do with God, and we did have some conversations.
Lionel Lamy Craig, 1929 to 2014. May he rest in peace.
A 24-year-old St. Peter woman is now temporarily homeless after a fire destroyed her home and all its contents at Ben Hill during the early hours of this morning. According to fire officials, the timber house owned and occupied by Shakira Cullimore Walker was razed just after 2 this morning. Fire officials tell CBC News Miss Cullimore Walker, who lived alone, was not at home at the time. 2 fire tenders and 8 officers under the command of Divisional Officer Lloydson Phillips responded to the blaze. And around 11 this morning, the firebug struck again, this time almost totally destroying this derelict building at Culmer Rock. The building was located next to the headquarters of the Barbados Nurses Association. Officials say no neighboring buildings were affected and no one was hurt. After a 5-year hiatus, the Broadway to Barbados show has returned with a bang. Hundreds attended last evening's opening at the Frank Cullimore Hall and soaked up the many performances from the New Yorkers. Proceeds from this year's events will be used to establish a medical intensive care unit at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Pulmonologist at the hospital, Anne-Marie Hassel, lauded the organizers for their continuous donations, which she says have helped the healthcare institution secure medical equipment and training for staff.
We're about to open our new medical ICU, and that is just really very exciting for us. And we're waiting now for the additional beds to come in, the clinical carts. We're soon going to have a new machine for doing ECGs, defibrillators. We're waiting now for 2 big items, which we hope we'll get this year from the proceeds from this Broadway to Barbados, being a bronchoscope and a new transport monitor for our patients.
And founder of the Broadway to Barbados show, Robert Bork, expressed interest in pursuing further improvement projects at the hospital.
Fortunately, we came up with this wonderful charity with Dr. Hassel, something that's greatly needed in Barbados to upgrade the equipment and the tools that the doctors use here in Barbados. We have wonderful physicians here, but they don't have a lot of the tools. So what we're trying to do is upgrade the equipment, diagnostic and monitoring equipment, by helping Dr. Hassel set up her medical ICU unit.
The show continues tonight and nightly from the 26th to 29th of this month.